out. Sure, it was a bit unfortunate that Lee Sin got those kills early on that changed the matchup, but we just saw how much more useful a champion like Lee Sin was rather than the Renekton.
Yeah, Crying did not have a good game whatsoever on that, but we are going to see what they do prioritize as we are back onto picks and bans. The exact same bans coming out for both sides in the exact same order, and this time round, looks like RNG are still thinking about whether or not they want to go with that Renekton or that Lee Sin.
Lee Sin Penguin. Ooh,
no,
they don't go
Renekton.
for it. I'm a bit surprised. Again, it is still a flex. There was the unfortunate circumstance where Doinby got that kill and his wave did get pushed in the tower. So not only did he die, but Crying also fell like 20 CS behind in that play, which gave Doinby the Iron Spike whip. But at the same time, even if we ignore like the lane and how the early matchup went, I think this is a champion that Doinby has shown such like an incredible amount of prowess on. That game, last game, was actually his first loss on the champion this split. He was 3-0 before that. He had a 22 KDA going into it, and I think Doinby on playmakers specifically is where it's just absolutely crazy to see. And this time around, we're going to see FPX be the team that goes back to the Diana. Another champion Tien is undefeated on so far this split.
Yeah, just swapping it out this time round. They're going to swap the junglers, so the Tien gets the Diana, Rumble goes over to Wei, and they pick up the Gwen as well. So pretty much the same draft coming out from both sides, just a swap of junglers.
And I wonder where FPX will go with top lane now, right? Because the set matchup went so horribly wrong for the side of FPX. Some things we've seen do decently into it, right? Is like the Wukong came out, didn't do too bad in lane. The Volibear we've seen can go fine, but instead gonna opt for the Jace. Another matchup where, because of how long that Hollowed Mist cooldown is, Jace still has a lot of windows where he can play to try to bully out the Gwen. You do have that Ian Hammer form to knock her back when she tries to Ian onto you. So there's some tools to play around, especially with the fact that this is one of Nuggery's go-to comfort champions. So I think that's going to feel a lot better for FPX going into this game.
I do feel as well, if we look at the bans and how the whole draft came out from game one, I feel like the set was intended to go to Crisp in that bot lane, and then they, with the top lane bans they ended up having thrown into them in the top side on the second rotation, RNG kind of forced the set to go into top. I don't feel like it was a natural progression to put it into. It still works, obviously, but definitely had a lot worse of a time, as we now see the bans going into that bot lane, the Varus and the Nautilus both taken away here, and I wouldn't actually mind seeing RNG ban away the Tamkens. Just get rid of that safety, make sure that you're putting as much pressure onto LWX as you physically can.
Well, I would just wonder what FPX will go for now, right? Because they get first pick. They were the team that chose the Varus last time around. They're going to be the ones to take that away this time. I wouldn't expect for them to be the ones who want to go with the Kalista themselves. We do still have the Tristana open, which is something that we hit on in game one. They could maybe even pull out something maybe like more or early game oriented if they want to go towards something like along the lines of a Jhin, but yeah, I think other than Tristan, I'm not quite sure where FPX will be looking with this one. The Kai'Sa's still open as well, but again, we've seen that pick specifically struggle a lot in this current meta.
Well, it's struggling, but it is going to be a comfort for the likes of LWX. Has played an absolute boat ton of it, so he's going to be picking that one up and going in towards that bot side, which means the last pick will be in support for the side of FPX. As RNG now decide what their bot lane wants to look like. They know they're going up against the Kai'Sa. They're probably pretty confident it's going up against a hard engaged support, or maybe even a Braum if they wanted to go with the Xayah Rakan combination and set themselves up for a nice early mid-game 5v5 team fight composition.
And everyone knows that Gala's go-to champion is the Kai'Sa, but his second go-to for a long time was the Xayah, and that's because when this guy came into prominence, initially into the LPL, Sino Dragons, it was all the Xayah and Kai'Sa meta, so this is definitely a comfort for him. Now we're going to see them pull out the Leona, so still wanting to get very easy point-and-click hard engage coming in, very long range, ultimate coming out as well. So I think a lot of the same tools for RNG are still there. Heck, if anything, this time around, you probably feel a little bit better with the Xayah as compared to something like the Kalista, which we didn't actually see do that much work. FPX going to round it out with the Rel, so a ton of dive coming in for FPX. The Jace a little bit off theme with the rest of the comp, but going to be able to throw out damage from far away, and I think this time around FPX may be more consciously thinking of Nuggery's laning phase when it comes to that Jace pick more than anything else. But we have two very similar comps, still very scrappy, a lot of bloodshed going to come out, and For FPX, I think once again we're going to be looking at Duinby. We're going to see how this Kai'Sa does specifically, because Kai'Sa right now sitting 13 wins, 23 losses in the LPL. She's going to be jumping into a bunch of melee bruiser champions who, right, you jump into Cryin, throws out the stun, maybe Ming's right there. You jump into the Gwen, she's happy to just burst you out. So I feel like LWX is going to be walking on pins and needles with how he has to play out this one.
Yeah, he's going to have to pick and choose his moments to go in off of that killer instinct. And on the other side, that RNG, like we just mentioned there, like they're looking to jump into your face. They've got a pretty safe AD carry. They know that even if they can, if everyone does jump onto Gala on the backside, you know, you have the let the feathers fly, of course, and you can just go invulnerable for a few seconds, and they've got a hell of a lot of engage to try and catch people out. So for RNG, it's a very similar composition that we saw from them in Game 1.
Yeah, and we're once again going to be looking at the top lane matchup. I think this time around, it should even be more volatile, right? Because, sure, Nuguri did go down 2 times in the first game, but ultimately you are still on a tank. We saw FPX be able to bring him back into relevance into that game, to where for Jace, a lot squishier of a champion. A lot of your lanes are very volatile. Even if things like the wave setup goes wrong, you have to go a bit too far forward. RNG will have a very easy time punishing that one. So for the side of FPX, I think it actually looks a bit rougher than it did last time around in terms of draft. For RNG, we said we didn't really care for the Renekton pick. They are still going to go back to what is comfort for them. We know Cryin doesn't play all that many bruisers proficiently, so maybe that could be a reason they default back to this one, but still very skirmish heavy. They have the Rumble this time around, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun.
If nothing else, this series is going to be fun and entertaining. We are jumping onto the Rift, and actually as we jump onto the Rift, it is Tien who's getting chased out of his jungle, or is he chasing the rest of them out of his? As we can see Crisp, Nuguri goes to the skies and puts down a little bit of hammer damage, but it is not hammer time, so they have to back themselves away. I love how these two teams play against each other. It always feels personal. It always feels like they have to just be in each other's face at all times. And that's what, in my opinion, as a play-by-play, makes fantastic League of Legends.
It's funny just because whenever we have, like, I'd say more historical top teams playing, like the teams that would jump to your mind, right? Like the top esports over the past few years, the EDGs, RNGs, FPXs, IGs. Whenever they play against each other, we always get much bloodier games, and I'd say much like closer games, even if any of those teams are slumping. So it is cool to see Xiaohu gonna just play in this brush. Seems like Nuguri knows something is up. Does throw out the question mark ping though. Xiaohu not gonna opt into the trade, gonna respect the trade back damage coming out from Nuguri at level 1 if he did opt to go in.
Speaking about trade back damage, it was FBX coming out on that trade on the bot side as Ming was not very much set up as Nuguri.
Oh no!
Xiaohu with another solo kill, the 3rd one onto Nuguri in this series.
It's happening again, Peg. With this wasn't supposed to happen. You got the comfort pick this time around. You got your choice. We even said it's something that doesn't even really thematically go with the composition. We didn't really see how it happened, but they were both still level 1, so Xiaohu must have just eat in. I'm not sure if Nuguri just committed too early or gave him free damage, but really disappointing showing coming out from Nuguri today. It's going to be another point of pressure that RNG are going to be able to find pressure from, have Wei hover up towards that side, potentially get topside scuttle, look to invade from that quadrant of the map, but Nuguri now at least having the wave in a frozen position, going to be able to force him out. And yeah, it's just going to be Xiaohu in. Yeah,
it's just auto attacks.
Right. He does get the bonus damage, does get the bonus attack speed as well as extended range. So a lot of as wells right there, as Gwen's E does do a ton of things. But yeah, this actually ended up working out for Nuguri in the end. Xiaohu will eventually be able to catch this wave, but it is a bit rough right now. Tien not pathing towards this side of the map, so no sort of dive able to come out. And you even see RNG actually are the ones playing around it, both Cryin and Wei making their way up to try to ease this pressure off of Xiaohu.
Yeah, they know that they need to try and just make sure that Xiaohu doesn't get put into the dirt.
God.
Now, Nuguri might be in a little bit of trouble. There's the slice, where's the dice? Is he going to have the flash available to him? He will. Nuguri tries to get out of this one and should be fine. But again, RNG just punishing this volatile Jace pick. You mentioned how volatile this top lane matchup is, and with the extra pressure being put down, they're able to make something work for them in the top side. But speaking of the bot side and pressure, we're going to see a return gank into the bot lane, flash forward, getting down the Ferromancy, getting the attack repel as well, but they are going to trade it 1 for 1. The TP comes in here from Cryin, and he's here to defend Ming. There was a trade of support for AD carry, so still a net positive for FPX and they gain a global.
Yeah, Flash E coming out from Crisp. Still, though, I mean, the fact that it is only a 1-for-1 in the end, I think RNG are feeling fine, especially with the fact that Cryan didn't lose anything in mid, because Doomby pat down towards bot side. He's still up in CS. Way now trying to push that wave in, was hoping to deny Doomby something, and I'm wondering if maybe Cryan wants to go for a reset, but actually looks like he already did. So no CS lost, no EXP lost, 1-for-1, and you're the team who didn't commit anything, but Xiao, who no flash up, might get punished.
He did see Crisp roaming in. Nuguri trying to just see if he could bait him in, saying, look how juicy I am. You know you want to go for this kill. But Xiaohu being disciplined, recognizing that he is almost certainly dead if he goes for that play, as Wei comes in just to make sure he can farm very, very safely. But now we're going to see, without a teleport for Nuguri, he's going to have to reset now and lose probably a wave, maybe a wave and a half off on this top side, as Wei snuck himself in now into this red buff, seeing if he can catch someone out on a poor rotation.
But look at Ming. This is the standard RNG play from Spring of like rotate Ming up towards the top side, look to steal away enemy Krugs, maybe threaten the top side dive. That's not going to happen though, and Wei maybe getting a little bit overzealous. In the end, nothing going to happen, but I feel like another positive for RNG this time around is the fact that Doonby not able to pick up any early kills, which means Renekton does still have the push in this lane. Sure, you might not be able to bring any use later on, but if you can at least guarantee some sort of early prile, that will be good. But Doonby's TPing back right now with the Iron Spike Whip, and Crisp is mid, so potential 2v1 top, potential 2v1 mid.
So
Cryan did have to flash.
Yep, did have to flash, so Cryan not able to keep that summoner going for him, as we did see the Iron Spike Whip now being picked up here by Doomby as he TP back into the lane. So more pressure into that mid lane that we've talked about now in the matchup, but it does feel like to me this Renekton pick is not comfortable for the side of Cryan, but more of a denial away from FPX. This feels like they're taking it away from FPX because they know how powerful Doomby can be on this champion like this, and they would rather have it themselves than give it over.
It could be that. I do think it is a bit of both, because, I mean, Cryan has shown in previous seasons he does play the Renekton pick, but I just think it's overall right. He's never looked as comfortable on bruiser champions as he has when it comes to control mages. As Equalizer going to come out.
Let's get a bit of damage. There's a Dominus down. They're going to try and fight this tournament straight away as the Leona picks up the kill onto Chris. The Diana falls as well. Now Doonby left all on his lonesome, forced to safeguard and flash his way. Yes, they get the dragon, but the kills go in favor of RNG, and Cryan looking a lot better on Renekton in this game too.
Yeah, is able to get in there after Ming actually missed the Zenith Blade, set up a bunch of those kills coming out, and once again, it is all going wrong for the side of FPX, though we did see them able to come back from it in game one, so not the worst deal coming out from them is Wei taking a bunch of punishment. Doesn't have flash either.
Oh, there's a resonating strike in about 2 seconds. They're not going to go for it. Cryan is there just to be able to eat that up, and a little scary there for Wei. He needs to be very, very careful. And now knowing that Wei can't really be in this jungle, Chris feels a lot more comfortable walking forward, putting down deep vision, making sure that he has eyes on the enemy jungler whenever his team need it. That's going to be a little bit of a pressure point now for FPX. They can see just how powerful this Lee Sin mid lane can be.
One thing I like is that we've seen both teams transition from game one with the AD carry selection, right? Because we do have Kai'Sa versus Xayah. Xayah does bring all that safety that you talked about. We've seen both supports playing primarily up towards mid and top side this game. We're going to get a replay of the original fight. Equalizer does come out, Cryan on one side, Ming on the other. Cryan just really being the one to start it off. We do see Chris turn around thinking, hey, maybe they can take it, and Cryan would be able to start that engage no matter what. They're just able to turn the fight. Sure, Doomby gets one, but not enough for the side of FPX. RNG on opposite ends are going to be able to guarantee themselves an early Rift Herald, but we can see that is because Ming and Gala rotated up, so LWX and Crisp are denying minions and getting plates down in the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, I was about to say there that, you know, yes, FPX are losing in the top half of the map, but they are gaining an awful lot in the bottom half. And this might be turned around here as Tien is around, just not quite landed as the Sonic Wave goes over the side. And there is the Moonfall as Tien picks himself up a nice little kill. Bit of overzealousness again from the side of Cryan on this Renekton, as we see now on the top side, Xiaohu going toe-to-toe with Nuguri as he tries to find the Q. Maybe he's going to be able to flash out of him. The Shock Blast does not land as it was blocked by that fantastic minion if you're a Xiaohu fan. Nuguri loses his flash. Xiaohu does not lose his.
Yeah, so overall win for him. Let's see if Nuggery can do a blind accelerated shock blast. Though Xiaohu would still have the hollowed mist coming out in the form of his W, so wouldn't be too bad on his side. Xiaohu's still doing a nice job of controlling this matchup slightly ahead if we factor in the minions he's going to pick up from this wave. And I like what FPX had pivoted to where it's like, hey, it's more around mid, it's more around bot. We've seen our top side fall behind early. I think Jay's also much worse in 2v2s because all you really bring is burst. And Dyna's kind of the same. You don't bring any CC setup. It would just be 2 burst champions. No setup for either side.
Oh no. Speaking of burst setup, you can see LWX forced to flash and cleanse. Tien is here, but Wei is not too far away from either, as he's going to force to use that dash straight away. He does have the feathers to go flying and to fly all the way back. No flash on Tien, but Wei may look to try and go for it. He's so low. But they decide not to overcommit to the dive. But again, net positive for RNG as they try and win back this bot lane.
I mean, RNG overcommitted to the initial dive, right? We saw Ming have to flash away. And then Wei having to drop that equalizer, I think, is primarily to dissuade Tien from going for that kill onto Ming. Then it just, turns out that they have the angle to kill him with the feathers of Xayah. But like you said, they're going to be able to drop Herald. They're going to be able to get first turret gold. They were able to get some plates as well. So despite the fact that they haven't given Gala almost any attention in this game so far, Gala's still going to be a big benefactor of the early pressure that RNG have had, and now he's actually gonna have a slight gold lead on LWX.
Yeah, was able to equal out the minions, was able to get obviously all those plates as well, so nice little move there for Gala onto the Xayah. And Xayah is that kind of champion that we don't really see as much of anymore in the meta because she does really heavily rely on getting 3.5 items before she becomes that hyper carry late in the late game, so getting her to that point can be a bit tedious, but for RNG, good start there as they're able to kind of almost pick up the first mythic and as well as boots.
I also think when talking about Xayah, right, there's also a lot of rougher matchups for her in this meta. The Varus coming out, when you have the Thresh, things like the Jinx and the Kog'Maw, you outranger her, you outscale her and do more later on. So a lot of bad things for Xayah in this meta, when you would think maybe she could be okay because there are a lot of potential divers coming in, and that's when you would typically see her come out, but not today. Is RNG now going to just kind of start pivoting towards bottom side of the map. FPX were able to get control of mid first, so looks like they will have set up for this dragon. Neither top laner has TP, so if any fighting happened, it would be a 4v4, but Cryin wanting to go for the recall. He does have TP actually, so maybe another fight set up from RNG.
Not quite. Unfortunately, Cryin did pop his Dominus in the mid lane randomly. I think he thought that Doomby was going to go in and dive him, but it was not to be. So very difficult to really make that kind of an engaged stick. And of course, Cryin just went back to pick up his Gore Drinker. So they just needed the dragon to be a couple of seconds later, and they might have been able to look for a fight. But it is a second Drake of the game for FBX. As in this top side, we do see, again, very good CS numbers coming in here for Nuggery. He's able to keep himself equal as the equalizer gets dropped down. There's the needlework doing work, and Nuggery stands in place to accept his fate, and that is another kill going over to Xiaohu. And he really, this entire series, specifically in the laning phase, has just shut down Nuggery completely.
Yeah, that's been the big thing, right? Is just taking control of top side. We are going to see FPX answer cross map and get some damage out on this bottom lane turret, steal away camps. I'd love to see RNG start pivoting their vision line further into FPX's jungle on top side. Still nowhere close to Baron coming up, but something like a second Rift Herald, you can position yourself well as RNG to be able to get that one, steal away some jungle camps of your own, get deep vision to look for picks. So I like what FPX is doing in response, but would like to see more out of RNG. Ooh, Doomby being spicy.
He's being very spicy, gets himself a low, deep TP again, but the TP's going to be answered here by Cryin. We're going to see the Dragon's Rage kick down on the Xiaohu, but now Doomby's in a little bit of trouble. Xiaohu, I actually think he got his TP cancelled as Doomby goes back in, gets one. Has he got enough damage to get two? The Shock Blast, not quite enough as the flash is there. There is the Prey Seeker, but not quite able to get it. LWX has flash, waiting for his Q, but not really going to be able to go for it. Now Ming trying to find Tien, who's now got himself between turrets as they're going to go for it. Ming picks himself up the kill with the Solar Flare. Nicely done there, and I do believe that was Tien just going in and ulting off and Cryin, stopping him from getting his TP off.
Yep, exactly. He went in, he most likely ulted onto Crine, stopped his TP, took a bunch of damage in return, had to give up his life in return, so ultimately ended up being a 1-for-1. It did allow for FPX to be the team to get vision topside though, so I think there is a bit of a positive for FPX in that one, especially when we see that Rift Herald is about to respawn, so not all bad for FPX when it comes to that one.
Not the worst as we have a look at the replay here. We can see Doomby coming in, and he's very wary of how he wants to do this. When you have a look now, it's just like, oh, just catches him in the bush. Nothing he could do about that, Tien. Very good awareness to stop out the Crocodile, because I think if Renekton comes in, Doomby doesn't go for this extra kill, and they probably lose Nuggery as well.
Oh, definitely, and kind of interesting. I wonder if Doomby was initially trying to get on the way, and the zoning from Xiaohu is what made him pivot to that one. Coming back onto the map, almost everyone is making their way up towards this Herald. I wonder if FPX are just going to concede, because we see Doomby is still just pushing through the bottom half of the map, so maybe push out that wave, try and get some vision down on bot side. Just keep working your way towards Soul. You've already picked up 2 dragons yourself as it is. If you can keep control of that side of the map, look to push further, get some picks when we do get RNG pivoting down, because Dragon is up in 1 minute and 40 seconds. That could be a place where FPX can start to gain a gold lead and start pushing forward in this game, because you expect that RNG can't ignore this next dragon as they're all making their way towards mid.
They're going to drop the Rift Herald mid as well, just try and get that one down. Trade a tier 2 for, at the moment, a tier 1, so it will be 2 tier 1s, and I would argue that it is pretty worth for RNG as they do crack open the mid lane turret and they start pathing back up towards this top side. Still a minute or so until that dragon spawns, and FPX maybe looking for something here. Doomby lands the Sonic Wave onto a minion, so Cryan just has to back himself away. Now Doomby's now 2 levels ahead of this Renekton, 202, and 50 CS ahead of Cryan, so definitely cannot say that the disadvantages for FPX are in the mid lane, because Doomby has been playing an absolute stormer.
Yeah, and it also comes to the fact that, right, we've seen Doomby side laning pretty much all game when he's not making plays. He's not dropping any waves, to where for Crine, he has continuously been grouped up with his team, looking for those advantages, hovering over, just trying to be that facilitator, but still, same result as game 1. We have a Sterix gauge already coming out from Doomby, still only on that Gore Drinker for Cryan. Xiaohu, I think, is totally fine here. Now for FPX, they're going to push in mid, they're going to get that vision. This is where I think their comp thematically is a bit weird. Like, you're going to have Nuggery, who's going to be able to throw out that poke, try to dissuade them from walking into chokes, and then you're going to have the other members trying to find that all in.
Well, speaking of all in, Doomby gets himself the Dominus out of Cryan and then backs himself away. It's still very dangerous to go for this dragon right now, especially if you're the one starting it off, because you have got the Equalizer, you have got the Solar Flare to land on top of it. The Dominus will time out, so Cryan will not have it for this fight, and it does feel like RNG are just backing away a little bit too far. Doomby finds himself on the backside, but they know where he is. Now, Dragon down to about 2,000 HP. They go with the Solar Flare, doesn't land onto anybody. There's the Equalizer trying to fade him off, but it is FPX to pick up their 3rd dragon and Soul Point. The Moonfall is good, but look at Gala. He's just free hitting. Gala's getting all these feathers down. The Jace is dead. They're going to be able to take down the Diana as well, but Doomby picks up 2 out of nowhere and 3 for Doomby. This man is ridiculous.
He does it
for Doomby. A pentakill for Doomby. That was insane.
And once again, just like 2020 Summer, Doomby's trying to be the man to put FPX on his back, giving flashbacks to when he was a world champion. That fight was totally won for RNG, and Doomby single-handedly turning it around.
Super carry Doomby. Never have truer words been said. This man, just from the jaws of defeat, is just dragging everything back, and you can just see why they put so much emphasis onto this Lee Sin pick. And let's have a look at how this all went down.
And we see so much wasted onto Tien in the back. We're going to see Doomby going in, chaining with Tien's Moonfall, looking really nice to all start off with. But this one, it starts looking so good for RNG. As you're saying, Gala is just being able to free hit Xiaohu, now taking out LWX. But Doomby still incredibly strong, goes with that Q, and then right here, W's into the flash to close the distance. Doesn't want Xiaohu's cooldowns to come back up. Also puts him in melee range to land the Sonic Wave to pick up the kill. And I love it, like, not laughing, not smiling after all that. If you look at the player camps, he was incredibly serious, incredibly focused, and he's trying to pull FPX to victory here.
He went back and bought a Black Cleaver. That was his prize.
Bought a full item.
Yeah, full item. He had 4,000 gold or thereabouts, about 3,500, and then just went, right, full item. I am now the carry. Look at me. I am the carry. And there, nearly 6,000 damage. He nearly does almost, you know, the same as all the big carries on the side of RNG combined. Is now Nuguri gonna find Cryan here, but Tien is around, and I think, Cryan, you are just dead, my friend. I don't think there's many places for you to go. As I say that, the equalizer's enough to dissuade, and then the big, scary super carry Doomby is here. Xiaohu coming up on the backside. It's a very scrappy fight. Solo player to try and dissuade LWX and Chris from going in here, and now we can have another 5v5. Chris is the first to fall as to get the kill down onto the Kaiser as well. It's a 1-for-2 trade in favor of FPX, but look at Doomby. Look how powerful he is. Look how much he's sustaining. Look how much he's just doing. Look at the shields. Look at the heals. He's going back in. He gets one. No, not able to get another as Xiaohu shuts him down. Now Tien needs to run away. The flash forward. I don't think that was the correct move for you, Xiaohu, as they're going to keep pushing forward. As they say that snip, snip. No, you die. And that is going to be a return kill for Tien. 5 for 4. And this series and this game is everything I could have hoped and dreamed for, Lyric.
It is so damn close. It was so scary on both sides coming in, right? Because Cryan is the one who gets caught out. You're like, okay, he's going down this Renekton pick. Once again, it is not it. But as you highlight, the equalizer enough to dissuade. Doomby not able to land with that Sonic Wave. But I'm so surprised that Ming and Gala turned around with the fact that LWX and Crisp are here. And this is where it gets a bit unfortunate for FPX at first, because we're going to see them get this first kill on Ming. But instantly, Gala and Crisp just jump into the backline. They are instantly taken down on the side of FPX, and we even see Rumble able to zone off on the opposite side, pick up a kill, but then it's going to be this moment where it's like, okay, Xiaohu versus Doomby. That's what it seems like the series is down to. Gets the Hollowed Mist out, gets those resistances, then he jumps in like you said. Sadly, that did not really seem like the play with how low he was. Still, his 4-stack Q did a ton of damage. It didn't even look like every stack hit, so, you know, maybe there's a world, but at the end of the day, FPX coming ahead. It looks like we're coming down to mechanical outplays, who's playing these fights better. It's not about the setup. It's not about, you know, pushing out your side lanes and making moves and vision. It's when we see each other, we want to fight. And who's going to perform better in that situation?
Do you want to come and fight me? Come on and catch these hands. This is what this game is all about for right now for the side of these two teams, like RNG and FPX. Coming in and just saying, you know what? It's not about the side waves. It's not about the ARAM. It's not even about the objectives. It's about in 33 seconds, we have to fight again. Now, very important to note, there's a lot of the cooldowns have not come back yet. You're still waiting on a flash for Gala. You're still waiting on a flash for Cryan, Xiaohu, and Wei. Whereas on the other side, the flashes are coming up for LWX. The flashes are coming up for Doomby. And this could be another fantastic fight for FBX if they can get Doomby back on the flank.
I mean, that's the thing, right? This would be sold for them. And look how much work Nuguri has done to Gala. So it doesn't matter if this champ doesn't jump in. It can still put enough hurt onto RNG to dissuade their champions from being able to walk forward. And I feel like RNG right now are going to have to pull out a miracle. I feel like specifically Xiaohu will have to pull out a miracle.
Well, Wei will have to look for the seal on this dragon first. Sonic Wave does land onto him, so the equalizer is already dead. This dragon is going down. There, Ocean Soul committed to and given over to FBX, but the Diana's first to fall. The Renekton next to go down, but look at these low health bars. Look at LWX, look at Doomby. They're just pushing forward. They know they have the advantage here. Triple kill for LWX, and FBX with this Ocean Soul going to turn and burn for the Baron.
Yep, and it should be a free objective for them. And this is where we need to highlight Nuguri. A little bit critical of the Jace pick coming in. He also did get solo killed, but still we saw how much work that poke did specifically to Gala. Gala not able to do anything in that fight. He can't even walk forward. The second he does, he tries to ult, instantly actually didn't flash away, just backs off. LWX just ults in on top of him, and he is dead. Very easy fight for FPX to clean up. They are now 3k gold, probably going to make their way up to 4 or 5k gold up onto RNG. They have Soul, they have Baron. It feels like not even a miracle can save RNG at this point. It feels like we're destined for that Game 3.
We're not going to just need a miracle. We're going to need an entire resurrection of the second coming of Christ for RNG to come back into this one. Well, let's have a look at this fight, because again, the equalizer doesn't really do much apart from just back FBX away.
No, and I mean, at the same time, right, health bars are already low coming in. you see, I really like that Doinby and LWX pivot to killing the backline because they know other members like Crisp are enough to dissuade the frontliners of RNG from being able to walk forward after taking so much damage initially. So FPX going to come back out onto the map. Looks like they're going to play a bit of a 1-4 setup with Doinby playing down in bot, the rest in mid, set up deep vision in the enemy jungle, and then typically you have about one member kind of pivoting back and forth. You'd expect it to be Way, catching people out or dissuading them to walk through, trying to find picks, and then kind of ping-ponging back and forth between mid and bot with which waves are getting pushed in.
With the Baron on them now for the little less part of 2 minutes, you can see FPX is pushing in. They now have the Ravenous Hydra for Doinby. He is 4 items versus the 1.5 for Cryans, so at a very similar time to game 1 as we see Ming moving forward now on Tagala, just making sure that Doinby doesn't start to feel too hypey about himself, as he 100% can kill off this Kaiser. And oh, speaking of killing people off, we're going to see the equalizer now. That's a great equalizer. That's a spicy meatball being dropped down on top of everybody. Nuguri is on the side, and they're going to see him get himself a kill, but they're going to be able to get the kick off. Doinby goes back in on top of the Rumble. Doinby's just too tanky. He's got too much sustain. The feathers will not help you here, and it's a 1 for 5. An ace for the side of FPX. They've got the minions in bot. They've got the minions in mid. They're going to end the game. We're going to get a 3rd game in this series.
And Doinby, you know, he was the man to talk about picking up a pen to kill this game. This man is trying so hard to win. He's pretty much single-handedly bringing down RNG, and it's so great that these two teams bring out the best in each other and really push us to some crazy games. Maybe not the best in terms of like macro or anything like that, but we get some quality bangers here today in the LPL, and I love it. Like, they're just not fazed by the win at all, Penguin. Like, they're taking this seriously. There's a killer look in their eyes. They're gonna go into game 3, and I have no idea who's gonna pull this one out. It's all over the place.
Honestly, you have a job still left to do. I like the fact that FPX recognize that. They can't rest on the victory. They're going to go back and think about, what do we do now when Doinby doesn't get the Lee Sin? Because if I'm RNG, that's the first thing I'm banning. But my God, you mentioned about the lack of macro, the clean, or not the cleanest of macro games. You want that? Go watch LCK. Don't be here. You're here for entertainment. We're here for the best mechanical players in all of the league.
First of all, we don't discredit LCK, and we're not saying there was no macro. We're just saying it was a little bit bloody, which is fine. That's what we're here at LPL for, right? Blood for the blood god. But I really like that you highlight the Lee Sin point. We talked about that going into draft into game 2. It's like, hey, RNG, you got to be the one to take that away, right? Because Doinby's just fantastic on this pick. Even if we ignore things like how strong it is in the meta or other intangibles, Doinby is a fantastic Lee Sin player, and he showed it off full well today. Once again, it got a little bit dicey for FPX in the early game, but through teamfight prowess, through the poke coming out from Nuguri, from the opportunity set up from Doinby, they were able to find their way back in it again.
Honestly, it just such a fantastic series, and really, really is living up to the expectations that we set upon this, because I won't lie, I was a little bit apprehensive. I was like, all right, FPX are looking pretty good, RNG not great, and I was kind of thinking in the back of my head, this might be a stomp towards FPX, but we can see the fight, we can see the power coming out from RNG, and they had a nice advantage going into that early mid game, and then out of nowhere, pentakill, game done, moving on, and Doinby, like we mentioned many times, would not let FPX lose that game. He is just playing out of his absolute mind right now, and I would argue to say he's probably playing the best League of Legends he's played in a good few years.
I feel like Doinby, I felt the same last year in 2020 summer, but it feels like Doinby just keeps leveling up. Like, he's not a player that I remember 2019 summer people talk about and kind of say, his laning, this, that, and the other thing's not that good. He's a great facilitator, he's a great team player, but I really feel like we've seen Doinby improve consistently from that time. And I mean, every time I see a damage craft with Doinby's Lee Sin, every time I've been amazed. It's always topping the chart. And I mean, it's like a great positive and a negative at the same time, right? A massive positive that Doinby's putting up these performances, a bit of a negative that you have to rely on him for this, right? Like, I feel like we need to see the other members of FPX really pull it together. I do think at some point, right, we always see Nuguri in the mid game able to come back online, but we need to see the other members of FPX be able to step up earlier on and not have so many flops around the map.
Yeah, it needs to see them not have to rely on DoinB getting a pentakill on Lee Sin to drag them back. But we'll see if they are able to do it. We are going to throw it to break, and when we return, the third and final game of this best of 3 epic will be happening very, very shortly.